At 3:47 in the morning, sensors deep inside Wolf Creek Dam's foundation lit up, one by one. Something had moved. 200 feet below 9 billion tons of water. Engineers called it equipment failure. Then the second sensor triggered, then the third. What they found beneath one of America's most dangerous dams wasn't a glitch. It was a warning from something that had been waiting down there for a very long time. Part 1. The dam that shouldn't hold. First, let me tell you what Wolf Creek Dam actually is, because the truth about this place is more unsettling than any legend. Wolf Creek Dam sits on the Cumberland River in south-central Kentucky. It was started in 1941, interrupted by the Second World War, and finished in 1950. A decade of construction to build a wall against a river that did not want to be stopped. The numbers are staggering even today. The dam stretches roughly 5,700 feet across. That's well over a mile of concrete and packed earth. It stands about 258 feet tall, taller than a 20-story building. And behind it, it holds back Lake Cumberland, a reservoir capable of storing around 6 million acre-feet of water. That is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 trillion gallons. 2 trillion gallons, held back by a single structure. Now here is the part that engineers don't always like to talk about. Wolf Creek Dam was built on top of karst limestone. And if you don't know what karst is yet, you will never forget it after this video. Karst is rock that water eats. Limestone slowly dissolved over thousands of years by mildly acidic groundwater until the solid stone is riddled with cracks, voids, channels, and caves. The entire region around Lake Cumberland is honeycombed. Beneath the calm surface that boaters enjoy every summer is a foundation that is, geologically speaking, Swiss cheese. So ask yourself this: what happens when you put 2 trillion gallons of water on top of a rock that water is actively trying to dissolve? The answer, it turns out, is decades of slow-motion terror. Part 2. The Bleeding Dam. It started with the water. Not the water in the lake, the water that was not supposed to be there. By the late 1960s, workers began noticing muddy seepage downstream of the dam. Water that was somehow finding its way through the foundation, carrying fine sediment with it. And in the world of dam safety, muddy seepage is not a minor maintenance issue. Muddy seepage means the dam is losing material. It means water is cutting new paths underground. It means the structure is, in a very literal sense, bleeding from the inside. Sinkholes appeared. The ground near the embankment began to sag and pock. Engineers ran tests, and what they found beneath the dam was a growing network of cavities, open spaces in the rock where solid foundation should have been. In 2005, the US Army Corps of Engineers rated Wolf Creek Dam's risk of failure as one of the highest in the entire country. Think about that. In a nation with tens of thousands of dams, this one was near the top of the list of structures that might catastrophically fail. And the stakes were almost unimaginable. A breach at Wolf Creek wouldn't just flood the valley below. Analysts projected that a failure could send a wall of water tearing downstream, threatening communities all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, a city of hundreds of thousands of people, more than 100 miles away. Estimated potential damages ran into the billions. Potential loss of life, catastrophic. So in 2007, the Corps made a dramatic decision. They lowered Lake Cumberland. They dropped the lake by dozens of feet, sacrificing tourism, hydropower, and revenue, simply to take pressure off a foundation they no longer fully trusted. And then they began one of the most ambitious dam rehabilitation projects in American history. A barrier wall drilled and poured deep into the bedrock at a cost of nearly $600 million. They were trying to seal the dam off from the caves beneath it. But here is the question that haunts this entire story. When you drill that deep into a foundation nobody has ever fully explored, what exactly are you drilling into? Part 3. The map that ends in darkness. Here's something most people never consider about Lake Cumberland. We have mapped the surface of the moon in higher detail than we have mapped the caves beneath this dam. The karst system underneath the Cumberland River Basin is one of the most extensive in North America. We're talking about flooded passages, dry chambers, vertical shafts, and channels that connect in ways no one has ever been able to chart completely. When engineers drilled their test borings during the rehabilitation, they reported drill bits suddenly dropping, plunging into open voids in the rock where there was nothing but black water and air. Some of those voids were small, some were not. And cave divers who have explored the more accessible flooded sections of Kentucky's karst will tell you the same unsettling thing every time. You can only ever see a fraction of it. The water goes back further than your light. The passages branch and narrow and open again into rooms the size of cathedrals. And in the deepest, oldest, most isolated sections cut off from the surface for tens of thousands of years, the ecosystem changes. This is where the science gets genuinely strange. Because cut off from sunlight, cut off from the surface world, isolated in total darkness for geological ages, life does not simply stop, life adapts. And what it adapts into is the part of this story that scientists are still arguing about. Part 4. Things that live in the dark. Let me introduce you to a word you might not know: troglofauna. Troglofauna are creatures that live their entire lives in caves, and they are unlike anything you've ever seen in daylight. Generations in absolute darkness strip away the things they no longer need. They lose their eyes, sometimes entirely, sometimes leaving only ghostly sockets where vision used to be. They lose their pigment, turning pale, translucent, almost colorless. Their other senses sharpen grotesquely. Their bodies stretch and thin and change. Kentucky's caves are already famous for them. The Kentucky cave shrimp, eyeless, ghost white, nearly transparent, is so rare it's federally protected. There are blind cavefish in these systems, eyeless crayfish, pale spiders, and strange, leggy insects that have never once known light. Now remember what we established earlier. Underneath Wolf Creek Dam is a karst network nobody has ever charted to the end, connected to a reservoir holding trillions of gallons, with voids and chambers that even the engineers drilling into them could not see the bottom of. So I'll ask you the question that the people who study these systems quietly ask each other. If a few feet of unmapped cave can hide a species we never knew existed, what could be living in a network of caves that stretches for miles, in chambers we have never reached, in darkness that has gone undisturbed since before human beings walked this continent? What grows down there where nothing has ever interrupted it, and what happens when you drill into its home? Part 5. What the divers reported. This is where I have to be careful with you, because this is where verified engineering history ends and the harder to explain reports begin. During the inspection and rehabilitation work, specialized divers were brought in to examine submerged sections of the dam's foundation and intake structures. This is some of the most dangerous diving on Earth. Zero visibility, crushing pressure, narrow flooded passages, and the constant pull of water that desperately wants to move through the structure. These are not nervous amateurs. These are some of the most experienced industrial divers in the world. And according to accounts that have circulated for years among people connected to the project, some of those divers came up shaken. They described currents that shouldn't exist, water moving in directions that didn't match the known flow. They described openings in the rock that weren't on any chart. They described sounds carried through the water, deep, low, irregular concussions that the equipment couldn't fully explain. One often repeated account describes a diver refusing to go back down after his light caught movement at the edge of his vision. Something large, pale and fast, vanishing into a passage that led down into the unmapped dark. Now, I want to be honest with you. These are reports. They are the kind of stories that grow in the retelling, that pass from person to person until you can't trace them back to their source. Skeptics will tell you that zero visibility diving plays tricks on the mind, that the human brain, starved of light and flooded with fear, invents shapes in the dark, that low-frequency sound underwater can come from machinery, from settling rock, from the dam itself groaning under unimaginable pressure. And they might be right, but here's what I keep coming back to. Every single one of those rational explanations requires the dam to be doing something, settling, shifting, letting water through where it shouldn't, groaning under stress. Which means even the boring explanation is its own kind of nightmare. If you're enjoying this, do me one quick favor before we go deeper. Hit that subscribe button. Channels like this one only survive when you stick around, and I promise you the second half of this story is the part you'll be thinking about tonight. Subscribe and let's keep going. Because we still haven't talked about what the sensors recorded. Part 6. The signal from below. Let's go back to that pressure spike, the one at 3:47 in the morning. Modern dams like Wolf Creek are wired like patients in intensive care. Piezometers measure water pressure deep in the foundation. Inclinometers measure the tiniest tilt or shift in the structure. Seismographs feel the faintest tremor. Every heartbeat of the dam is monitored, logged, and analysed. Because when you're holding back 2 trillion gallons, you cannot afford to be surprised. And every so often, the instruments record something the engineers can't immediately explain. Most of the time, the answer is mundane. A faulty sensor, temperature changes, the slow, eternal flexing of a structure, responding to the weight of the lake. Karst foundations are known for producing strange readings. Pressure pulses, sudden flows, the signature of water finding a brand new path through dissolving rock. But think about what that actually means. A pressure pulse in a karst dam can mean that somewhere deep in the foundation, a void just opened or collapsed. Or that water just broke through a barrier it had been chewing on for years and surged into a chamber that was, until that moment, sealed. In other words, every unexplained reading is the dam telling you that something changed down there in the dark. Something you can't see. Something you didn't plan for. So when people ask, what emerged from Wolf Creek Dam? Maybe the answer isn't a creature at all. Maybe the answer is worse. Maybe what emerged is the truth that we built a mile-long wall against a river, on top of a foundation that is slowly, patiently, relentlessly trying to disappear beneath us. And that we are not, and have never been, fully in control of what happens below the waterline. But I told you this story gets stranger. So let's talk about the thing nobody wants to put their name on. Part 7. The thing in the lake. Lake Cumberland has a legend. For decades, the people who live and fish on this water have told stories about something in it. They call it Cumbie. And before you roll your eyes, yes, every big lake has its monster story. It's almost a rule. A large, mysterious body of water seems to demand a creature to fill it. But Cumberland's legend has a few details that are hard to shake. The lake is deep. In places, well over 100 feet, and in the old river channel, deeper still, with submerged cliffs, drowned forests, and the flooded ruins of everything that existed in that valley before the dam went up in 1950. There are catfish in these waters that grow to genuinely monstrous sizes. Verified catches of fish weighing well over 100 pounds are not the stuff of legend, they're the stuff of record books. Divers have reported catfish as big as a man, lurking near the base of dams across the south, and while some of that is exaggeration, the truth underneath it is real enough to give you pause. So here is where everything we've talked about collides. You have a lake of unimaginable depth hiding a drowned world. You have a foundation riddled with caves that connect the lake to a subterranean network nobody has mapped. You have an ecosystem in those caves that evolution has been quietly reshaping in total darkness for tens of thousands of years. You have divers reporting things they can't explain, and you have a dam whose very instruments record movements and pressures from deep below that science can only partly account for. Now put it all together and ask the question this whole video has been building toward. If something did emerge from the dark beneath Wolf Creek Dam, would we even recognize it? Would we have any frame of reference for a creature shaped by an environment no human has ever fully entered? Or would we do exactly what people have always done when confronted with the unknown? File it under sensor error, diver fatigue, lake legend, and look away. Because the most unsettling possibility isn't that something is down there. It's that something is down there, and we have spent 70 years deliberately not looking. Part 8. What we actually know. Let me be straight with you, because you deserve the truth alongside the mystery. Everything structural in this story is documented and real. The near failure, the risk rating, one of the most dangerous dams in America, the dissolving cast foundation, the seepage, the sinkholes, the emergency drawdown, the nearly $600 million barrier wall, the blind, colorless creatures in Kentucky's underground, with new species still being found today. And yes, the strange pressure pulses and flows that cast dams really do produce, which engineers really do chase down every single time. What I can't hand you as fact are the rest. That scene I opened with, the night the sensors lit up one after another, is a dramatization of exactly the kind of reading these dams record, not a logged event with a timestamp I can prove. The diver stories, the movement in the dark, the thing at the edge of the light, those live in the grey zone between rumor and report, and I won't insult you by pretending otherwise. But maybe that grey zone is the honest place to end up, because the real story here was never about a monster. It's about how little we know about the ground we build on, and that beneath one of America's most beautiful lakes lies a dark, dissolving, unmapped labyrinth we sealed 2 trillion gallons of water over and called solved. So here's where I leave you tonight. In the most recent round of foundation monitoring, engineers logged another series of readings deep beneath the dam. Pressure shifts, flow anomalies, the signature of water moving through rock where, according to the barrier wall, it should no longer be able to go. The official explanation is settling, routine, the slow, expected behavior of a cast foundation that will be monitored for as long as the dam stands. But somewhere under your feet, if you ever stand on that crest and look out over Lake Cumberland, there is a darkness that has never seen a single ray of light. A network of caves we have never mapped, an ecosystem we have never catalogued, and a lake so deep it still holds the bones of a world that drowned in 1950. We sealed it, we monitored it, we told ourselves it was under control, and every so often, at 3:47 in the morning, the sensors light up and remind us that we were never really the ones in charge. The question isn't whether something is down there. The question is, what happens the day it decides to come up? I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe. You do not want to miss what we found in the lake next door.